Milani Dumoulin, good evening and welcome to episode 283 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Uzamantungwa Kumalo. It's a Wednesday edition of the Private Property Podcast. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the show. You've been missing out on some great content when it comes to all things relating to property. So do make sure that you go to our Facebook or our YouTube page to catch up on all the exciting episodes that we have already had on your screens. And to all our regular viewers, welcome back. You know how we do it. Every single weekday, you and I have an appointment. I'm always in conversation with a property expert who helps us navigate our property journey. This is, of course, the only daily property talk show in South Africa that helps you on your journey. And talking about helping you on the journey, we also have a whole host of other shows that you can tune into across Private Property's social media platforms every single weekday at 8 p.m. I can already see that the gremlins are at work. So if the screen sort of zooms in, zooms out of me, I do apologize in advance. It's the nature of our signal and working from home. So sometimes the signal will fail you and drop, and other times not so. But we do hope it's going to be stable. You'll still be able to hear me very clearly and, of course, follow in our conversation this evening. And later on in the evening, as it is a Wednesday, you can catch Esty Clarkson bringing you the First Time Home Buyers Show, and she's on your screens every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. with that show. Award-winning farmer Umbali Nwoko is on your screens every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. where she tackles all things agriculture. She's always in conversation with experts within the farming space that really explore all things agriculture and really different parts of the agriculture value chain, certainly able to get a sense of what you are interested in, and if you want to venture into farming, that certainly is the show for you. And on Mondays and Fridays, Chad gives us exclusive tours of properties that you can find on www.privateproperty.co.za, and that is on the Home Shoppers Show. And that certainly is some of the ways that you can always stay plugged into the shows that we have across Private Properties social media platforms. Remember to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course also on TikTok as we're available there. You can follow myself at Zamantungwa_K on Twitter as well as on Instagram as I tweet and certainly update all things related to property, from even some of my farming ambitions and of course my own home renovation journey. And this evening, we're going to be tackling something that is very close to my heart, certainly because I'm also somebody who falls within this category. We're going to be looking at youth and home ownership. And we're going to be getting really great Zayda Manuel, who's a product portfolio manager for first-time home buyers at Absa Home Loans. Zayda, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Zama. Thank you. Good evening, viewers. Hi, Zama. It's so nice to be back again. It's always a pleasure to be on the Private Property Show, talking all things property. Thanks for having me.
It's such a great pleasure to have you again on the show, especially as we tackle, youth insights and getting a really good sense of youth home ownership insights during this youth month. And I say this is something that's very close to my heart because I'm a young person myself, and I like getting a sense of what other young people, certainly have a sense of when it comes to property and what the data tells us around what we consider, as important property journey. That's some of what we're going to be exploring this evening. And also, of course, what Absa Home Loans has in store for young people when it comes to helping them on their home ownership journey. I want to find out from you at home, if you are a young person, so this is we'll use a country's definition of youth, so under 35. Firstly, have you already bought your first property? How was the experience you're buying as a young person? How old were you when you bought that first property? And what were some non-negotiables for you? Because I think sometimes when we buy a property in our early 20s or mid 20s, it's probably very different by the time you want to perhaps upgrade or buy a bigger home for yourself when you hit your early to mid 30s. So what were some of the non-negotiables early on? And Zayda, before we even look looked at what some of the data is saying or what young people are looking for, perhaps define for us that youth market, according to the bank, and what some distinct characteristics are of the youth market?
Well, thanks, Amma. Thanks for that. So I think from a youth definition, you've rightfully said it earlier, we look at the under 30 age 5 group. What we have seen as a trend is actually that this cohort of group under the age of 35 has been really active in the market from entering the property market, buying a home. They've actually contributed about almost 50% to the activity. We've also noticed that female buyers are very active, also contributing 50% to the activity in the current market. And I think that's really, really good. But we are also seeing, I think, since the lockdown period, and we currently in the global pandemic, but we've really seen good activity in the market, bulk coming from these age groups and the female cohort. And what we've also seen is there's been a good activity, from the youth in the market as well, especially under the ages of 35. Yeah.
I mean, and you've just pointed out, Zeda, that we're certainly seeing quite a lot of activity within the youth market in particular. Perhaps take us through, some of the or why rather the market is trending, or why that particular segment is trending towards home ownership as opposed to, for example, renting, or if you're fortunate enough, remaining and stay at home, of course, with your parents.
Yeah, so I think thanks for that, Sam. I think the market's quite favorable. We've had the lowest interest rate in 50 years currently. I think since last year when it was announced, the rates really decreased. And I think that has created the opportunity for a lot of more South Africans to enter the property market. Also, with the transfer duty fees being exempted for properties under R1 million, that's another entry point to help you and assist you to enter the property market as a first-time buyer. And I think that these are favorable, and affordability also increases with the favorable rates. And that has created real opportunity and activity in the market. So I think there's a good cohort of people taking the opportunity becoming a homeowner, instead of moving from renting to owning a home. Also, maybe some single moms looking to build security for their kids. Also, some people maybe be the first in their family purchasing a home, and now is an opportune time. And I think all of that has contributed to the real activity in the market. And we've seen that first-time buyers are really active, contributing to 50% of the activity. So I think those are some of the key trends, that we've seen. And also what we've also seen is that, some buyers could have afforded a property in a certain suburb, but now can afford in another suburb based on the affordability and the low interest rates. And times are different now, but I think the opportunity in the market is prime.
And we're talking off air that one of the things that I've also been doing is there are certain areas that I've always just been very close to my heart, and it's one of those aspirational areas that previously I would say, look, this is a bit out of my budget. I'm seeing the prices now and what is potentially possible. And there's a part of me that wants to make that jump and perhaps, buy one place, a nice big home that I can maybe grow into. And I'm sure many people are also faced with that particular decision. As you're seeing, some of the prices are, fairly good in certain areas. And perhaps you're also looking at your own affordability and thinking, look, I can afford to get that property now. I've been saving up for that deposit, so I can actually afford to put down that big deposit. And if you watch the show, one of the things that I always say to viewers is that you also need to actually plan for when interest rates go up, because we know they're going to go up. So you've done your homework, you know that when they eventually do go up, you're still going to still afford that particular, property, and of course all the running costs of that property. And that's one of the things that I'm considering. Although some of the properties I'm seeing are a bit too big for the lifestyle that I'm currently living, so there's also that those decisions that I essentially have to make in terms of buy now, or rather wait it out. Eventually when prices kind of go up, I'll have to make that decision further down the line. And Zeta, I'm interested to find out from you then what the types of homes that young people are typically going for, because as you've certainly heard from my decision making, I'm like, look, I don't actually need a big place. So the cost of getting that big place and then having to live in a big place, that's probably going to be slightly scary, given how for the longest time I've been living in a sectional title community, and then all of a sudden you're living in this big house all by yourself, and you're thinking through the needs that I have and whether or not to take that plunge. I'm keen to hear from you how, or some of the other features that young people in particular are looking for in their properties as they're buying them. Do they have any preferences that they have for the properties that they are eyeing?
Thanks, Amma. I think first of all, from a property type perspective, look, there'll always be a choice for sectional and estate living properties versus a freestanding. I think there's benefits for both. It's really your own preference. But from a sectional estate living perspective, I mean, young people are looking for security and easy lock up and go, which is suitable, complex living. And then also, sectional and estate living properties has a body corporate that manages some of the maintenance, such as maintenance of the property, like gardening services and etc. And I think that is an advantage where, it's ease, especially if you're a female buyer, and that's convenient for yourself. And the security is taken care of living in a sectional and estate living property. When it's a freestanding property, I think that's also wonderful. You can do what you like to your home, make upgrades, etc. It's also a good choice, but then, also comes the thought of having to manage the property, additional expenses around maybe enhancing security systems, making it more secure if it's not, and still keeping uptake, if you have a garden, additional garden expenses and services. So that's really the difference. But I think that they're still favorable for both types of properties in the market. And I think it's preference to the buyer choice, and also the space. I think people also look at the space. So if they can afford a bigger sectional title estate living property, it would be great. And then those who just prefer freestanding, where they really have a very, very good big space, considering big entertainment areas, etc. So those are also other thoughts and other preferences from a property perspective that buyers look at, especially the youth. And I mean, we are homebound for now from a social perspective, limited social gatherings. So you really have to make a choice of buying a home that's comfortable for you. With the current global pandemic, you have to ensure that your home's comfortable to keep yourself occupied from an entertainment perspective as well. Yeah.
Zeta, you already started mentioning aspects of this. I'm keen to hear what are some of the key value drivers that young people are looking for in the properties that they're buying. So some of those things that they absolutely want to have, particularly in the estates that we're going for. We're seeing, for example, the rise of the lifestyle estates, with pretty much everything being inclusive within that particular estate. Are these some of the things that young people are looking for when buying a property? And if so, what are some of those key value drivers that they're specifically almost looking out for this when they shop around for which estate or complex they want to buy into?
Thanks, Amma. I think firstly, when you search for a property in an area, you look for the amenities and its surroundings, close to shopping centers, schools, access to good transport network systems. You also look at the area. How is the area from a field perspective? Look at an area on a Sunday versus look at an area during the week. Can you manage traffic? How's the peak levels, etc.? I think the second thing is, connectivity. We cannot connect with anybody if we not have fiber, as an example. And I think connectivity is so important in the current time, especially remote working and connecting through utilizing connectivity to actually now, with the current restrictions on our global pandemic, connecting with family and friends virtually, in the absence of big social gatherings, some of those social entertainment lifestyle hobbies has changed for us a little bit. So connectivity is very important. And then I think some homes, what you will also see, some newly built developments are also trying to contribute to sustainable living from a green, renewable energy solution. And you'll find that you would like to utilize some of those solutions and renewable energy solutions. So sometimes homes will have that as well from a sustainable living perspective. And those are also some of the key things that you'd look for. And I guess space. I spoke to space earlier, and I think space is important as another preference when searching for a property, especially in the current time. We're working remotely. We're more at home from an entertainment perspective. So your home has to be comfortable. And I think those are some of the things considering when you're searching for a property, irrespective of the amenities and the surroundings. So like your home is your sanctuary and you must make it the best and it must be comfortable. So I think that for me is for what we're seeing as choice around buyers making decisions around some of those key things. And I guess also, when searching for a property in a sectional title or estate living, you'd also want to better understand what are some of the rates and tax and levies, levies costing. So to better understand your budget as well. And I think those are some of the key things that you would look out for when searching for a property. Also, the area that you're buying, is it an area that's appreciated in value? What is the surroundings? And yeah, I think that's, and you can also retrieve property reports. I think you can access that on private property as well. So those are key things that I can mention that you would look out, that buyers would look out for when searching for a property. Yeah. Thank you, Zama.
If you are just joining us this evening, I'm in conversation with Zayda Manuel, who's the product portfolio manager for first-time home buyers at ABSA Home Loans. As we look at youth and home ownership and getting insights on what we as young people are looking for in a property, what some of the key features we want in the various properties that we want, and of course, how we can best navigate our journeys if you're looking to buy that first property. Now, Zayda, and this is something that is right up your alley, even in your day-to-day at work. Perhaps you go through some of the home loan, because I think people for the second time have walked this path before, and they have very least drawn their first property, that first property. The requirements are that we as to certainly buy that first property.
Thanks, Amma. I think, when you start your journey around preparing to buy a home, I think one of the key aspects is first, review your own budget and understand what it is your finances look like. And I think the second thing is understand your credit score, because if you have anything that's concerning on your credit bureau or credit score, try to clear that off. Thirdly, it's also always good to do a pre-qualification to determine how much the bank can lend you. So whilst you're shopping around, you have an idea of your price range and your budget. And I think the next thing is also looking at your budget, because when you buy a home, there's other costs that comes with a home. So prepare yourself for the attorney costs, the associated attorney costs like bond registration and transfer cost. You maybe in addition to your budget, the insurance, taking up insurance for your new asset, for your home, you'd have to take that into account into your budget. Also, moving costs. So when you've completed your journey, what is the additional cost? And also rates and tax, what is the increase in rate and tax? And if you considering buying in a sectional or asset living property, I think the levies, what is some of the levy costs that you'll have to attain and take up? So those are all preparing your finances, and that's part of the journey of purchasing a home, And I think after you've done that, then it's good to go and search for your property, log on private property website and search in all the areas, especially now that you have a great idea of how much you could qualify for. And I think it's always good, as I mentioned earlier, understand the area you're buying. You can draw property reports, drive around in the area weekdays, Sundays to determine, have a good look and feel about the area. Because I think it's very important as well. You need to be comfortable. Even if you go a few times to visit it, I think it's good. And like I say, the property reports can also give you a good indication around property growth and value in that area. So that would help. Those are all the guidance and the tips that I can give you to help you on your journey as you prepare for home ownership.
And Zeda, when we then look at what ABSA has on offer for particularly that youth segment, can you just take us through what young people can look forward to if they want a home loan with ABSA Home Loans?
Oh, thanks, Amma. Great question. I think first of all, we have great advice and tools that can help you make the decision. It's all available online on our ABSA website. So you can utilize our pre-qualification tool, which is the home loan estimator that can help you understand how much you could afford. Then we have a great e-learning tool, which is the My Homeowner Journey that can actually teach you the ins and outs of home ownership. Right from what is a credit score, what is transfer and bond cost, how do you calculate that, what is the attorney process, what are the different type of properties you can purchase, right to understand the maintenance of properties post-buying as well, so that end-to-end around home ownership education. And then we've got a good articles that talks to you about all different types of, that can answer questions and answers for home ownership on our website. Then we've got a great proposition for young professionals. We give you a lending of up to 105%, a 30% bond registration discount, access to our insurance solution. So we can solve for your structure insurance, your home content cover, especially also credit life covers so that you can protect your asset that you're purchasing. And we can help you draft a will as well. You also have access to our financial advisors that can also help you structure, leaving a legacy, securing your asset and help you set up those finances that can do a good financial consultant analysis as well. And then, after you've purchased your property, we can help you around if you would like to pay additional funds into your property, into your bond, help you access it, from an equity perspective after you've made your purchase. So to do extra payments and easy accessible, you can do that. And we've got a great range of solutions, and we have a full bank offering. We've got great financial solutions at ABSA to support you, not only for home loans, but all the other extensive solutions that's associated to home loans, such as insurance and drafting a will. And I think we've got that. And I think we've got a really great offer. All our information is available on our ABSA website. We've got great digital tools, as mentioned, which is educational, that can support you in the preparation of home ownership. And we're happy to hold your hand on the journey, and we're excited to do so as well.
And we are taking your questions and comments at home as we look at youth insights when it comes to home ownership. This Youth Month, we are in conversation with ABSA Home Loans, somebody who needs the introduction. We've had her quite regularly on the show, Zeda Manuel, the product portfolio manager for first-time home buyers at ABSA Home Loans. And we've got a question. I love this question. It's coming through from Facebook. Speak on the possibilities of including the transfer or registration costs in the loan amount from different ways to obviously minimize the cost of buying that particular property. We often talk about budgeting for paying for attorneys or the transfer costs. what are the possibilities of that amount being included in the loan amount that they're going to be taking? So if the loan amount is, let's say, R500,000, and let's make it a round figure, the transfer costs, so your bond registration and your transferring attorneys are going to cost you 50K for both. Is it possible to then ask the bank for 550,000 rands instead of that R500,000?
Thank you, Zama. Great question. So as a first-time home buyer, we've got the young professional offering where we do offer a loan to value of up to 105%, subject to a credit assessment to determine your affordability. And then you can submit your application and we'll assess it. I think banks, we do offer it at ABSA. And like I mentioned, it's subject to a credit affordability assessment, and we can assist you as a first-time buyer. And that's our young professional offering as well. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that I will say is oftentimes there's almost no escaping this particular cost. So in as much as, for example, Zeta has pointed out that you can get up to 105% home loan, you may find that you still have a minor shortfall. So as the young professional, you may still need to have some money on the side for the particular transfer. So it's almost one of those things that you can't really escape. You can negotiate with the attorneys for a slightly reduced rate, which we're able to typically get on both ends, whether the transferring attorneys or the bond registration attorneys. But having it be an amount that you don't budget for altogether tends to be slightly impossible. Zeta, before I let you go, what mistakes are young people making when it comes to realizing their home ownership journey? And I ask this particularly in terms of perhaps certain things that get young applicants home loans declined, home loan applications declined. What are some of those things so that we can avoid them? Hopefully we're not making any of those mistakes right now, and we could just outwardly avoid them altogether so that when we are ready for making that home purchase, we don't have any issues in getting our home loans approved.
Thanks, Sama. Great question. I think, some of the things that can limit you to enter the property ladder is, one, your finances. I think it's important to manage your finances prudently. Really ensure that your expenses doesn't exceed your income, because then there's no room for you to get approval for any additional lending. I think it's also very important to understand your credit score and and your credit score. What does that look like? Ensure that it's in good standing. And if you find that there's any errors, try to rectify that and clear it out. You are eligible to get an annual free report from the respective credit bureaus, and you can access that. And I think it's always good to start a savings pool towards your home ownership journey so that you don't find yourself in an anxiety level because you don't have enough money to pay towards a deposit or to pay for the attorney costs, and then it makes the journey a little bit uncomfortable as such. So it's always good to prepare and do your homework. I think do a pre-qualification to determine how much you can afford. Shop around, and like I said, ABSA has the great tools available to give you the advice and guidance to prepare you for home ownership. We've got a great online application process. We've got a great team of sales support team that can assist you around questions and answers. And I think that to me is the guidance that I can give, that you can prepare for home ownership. It's around your finances. And I think a lot of us don't sit. And I think when we're ready, then we decide. But I think it's a preparation process. And I think that we have to sit and reflect on it to ensure our budgets can actually afford buying a home and all the associated costs to it that will become an expense as you become a homeowner, like insurance, levies as such, rates and tax, those additional costs that comes with becoming a homeowner as well. Yeah. Thanks so much.
More of your questions and comments at home this evening as we look at youth insights into home ownership. We've got a comment coming on Facebook from Ukobela Ganuka saying, "I am loving this conversation." Ukobela, thank you very much. It's the first time I'm seeing a comment from you, so thank you for commenting there. We hope to see more of your comments going forward. And a question from somebody, this is also the first time I'm seeing this name, Unombulelo Kwacha. Nombulelo would like to know which is better, to do your own bond or to do it through an agent. I like this question because oftentimes estate agents will say that they obviously have their in-house team that helps with securing a home loan. So they've got their bond lady or bond guy who assists. So which one is better, working through your estate agent or doing it yourself? So going to the bank yourself, or perhaps going to a bond originator yourself instead of working with the agent?
Thanks, Amma. Great question. I think at ABSA we've got a great tool and services that we offer. So directly either or, I think it's choice of customer, but we've made it a bit easier and convenient where you can actually do your home loan application online. We're living in a digital age. We're trying to transform. So you can apply online for your home loan and you can get an outcome literally within a few minutes, right? Of applying online, upload your necessary documents, ensure that you've got the right documents up front, and you can get an outcome. We also then have a great team of home loan experts and specialists that can assist you telephonically or face-to-face with the home loan application if you come into a branch or telephonically. And we're always there to assist you and guide you and support you on the journey. And I think that to me and I think it's nice always to have that engagement and directly have that contact. And we've made that availability to South Africans, and we've got that services from a service providing perspective to help the consumer on the journey of a home loan application. Yeah.
Going on to Instagram, we've got Malik asking, how important is it as a first-time buyer to ask the agent assisting you why the owner is selling the particular house or apartment?
A good question to ask. I think that it's nice to understand because, some existing homeowners might be upgrading their homes or they might be wanting a bigger property because their life stages are changing and the lifestyle might be changing. Or actually, they could be immigrating as such. There's different reasons, but I think it's good to understand why is the owner selling, and like I say, there's many different reasons, but it's good to hear from the previous owner. Yeah.
And I think one of the other things, Malik, I'll add to what Zeta has just said, one of the great insights that you're able to get when you ask that question, as a standard, I always ask that question, is you're able to get a sense of how quickly or how serious the seller also is. Some sellers put their properties up on the market and they've got the time to have it sit, and you'll tend to find that the agent will bring different offers, and it doesn't matter how good some of the offers are when it comes to sort of where the market is, they still don't accept it. So when you have a sense that this is a seller who is looking, for example, to upgrade, or they're looking to downscale, and so they really want the property sale to go through as quickly and as smoothly as possible. Sometimes if they're looking to move the country, you also get a sense of how much negotiating room you effectively have. So in the event where they really need this sale to happen for them, for example, before they can get the next property or the property that they're eyeing, you also know that this needs to conclude, as swiftly as possible. They don't have the time or the capacity for that property to stay on the market for 8-10 months, at a go. So asking that question always helps. I found that really good estate agents are able to give you an honest answer, to say this is the reason why, and you as the potential buyer are able to sometimes use that to your advantage or do what you want with the information. So for example, when it comes to some investment properties, they might say it's because they're tired of handling, tenants all the time, and they no longer want to do, single unit apartments, but they'd rather do a multi-let, or they'd rather do a building. So really getting an answer to that question does tend to help you in terms of how you negotiate with the estate agent going forward. Zeta, before we wrap up, any final tips for our young potential homeowners at home who are looking to potentially buy that first home this year or perhaps in the coming months when it comes to their home ownership journey?
Thanks, Amma. I think in conclusion, as mentioned earlier, I think the opportunity is prime. We have favorable interest rates. You're exempted from transfer duty fees for properties under $1 million. And I think, becoming a homeowner is an opportune time right now. Really prepare yourself, look at your finances. ABSA has great tools on our website that can help you on the journey. We have a great set of property specialists that can assist you. We've got great digital tools. And I think prepare and enter the market and become a homeowner. I think it's aspirational, it's ambitious, and I think contribute to the activity in the market. And it's such a proud moment when you buy your first home. And it's just an amazing feeling. And like your home is your sanctuary, it's a representation of who you are. And I think it's exciting. And I think, we need more South Africans to become homeowners. And I think, as I say, ABSA is happy to walk the journey with you. We've got great tools, great products to support. And yes, become that homeowner. Prepare yourself on the journey. Thanks.
And that's a great place to leave it at. Prepare yourself on the journey when you want to be a homeowner. That's it from Zeta this evening. Zeta, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Zama. Thanks for having me. It's always a great pleasure to be on the podcast and talking all things property with you and private property. Thanks so much.
And that is Zeta Manuel, who's a product portfolio manager for first-time home buyers at ABSA Home Loans. And that brings us to the end of the Wednesday edition of the Private Property Podcast with myself, Uzamantungwa Khumalo. I'll be back on your screens tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. But it's a Wednesday, so you can look forward to the First-Time Home Buyers Show with Esty Clausen at 8 p.m. Until then, hoping you're staying home and staying safe.